Hello and welcome to Friday Live. I am Amanda Farmer, and it is so great to be back here with you on a Friday afternoon, sharing, celebrating, commiserating, perhaps if you've had a bad one, our week in Strata. I missed you guys last week. It's been a few weeks since I have been live, and thank you for your messages that you sent through saying how pleased you were that I was going to be back live this week. And we got lots to talk about. It's a positive vibe, I think, in our country, right around our country at the moment. We have been out of lockdown in New South Wales for a couple of weeks now, getting back out there slowly but surely. Regional travel opening up again for us on Monday, the 1st of November, which is super exciting for me. My home is in the regions at the moment. I am so looking forward to seeing my family. It's been about 5 months since we've seen some of our family members and friends all scheduled to come and visit, which is just awesome. And I know our Victorians were out of lockdown last Friday as well. So feeling good, looking good. Hope to see some of you very, very soon. I'm seeing lots of you come on in now. We are going out to the Your Strata Property Facebook page and also out to LinkedIn. If you are coming in, drop me a hello in the comments. I like to see you there. Let me know how you're going. With our positive vibe at the moment, I've decided to bring along a little, oh, my coaster's getting stuck there, a little Friday drink to Friday Live. Yes, let's call it happy hour this week. I hope you are there relaxing and celebrating a successful week in Strata. Now, things are looking so positive, in fact, that I have an event, an in-person event, to tell you a little bit about our Women in Strata. End of year get together is, fingers crossed, hopefully happening the evening of the 9th of December. Now, if you are working in strata management or you are a professional serving our strata schemes or assisting strata managers in New South Wales, do come along and join us in Sydney at the winery in Surrey Hills the evening of the 9th of December. At the moment, it is a save the date, get that in the diaries, the evening of the 9th of December. We are going to be having a drink, having a little bite to eat, catching up with friends and colleagues, and just enjoying some general letting down of the hair after another difficult year. You don't have to be a woman in Strata to come to our event. Absolutely, men are more than welcome and indeed encouraged to attend. If you want to find out all the details when we are releasing them and make sure you can secure your spot, head over to womeninstrata.com.au and jump on our mailing list so that you will be the first to receive all of that information when it comes on through for our Women in Strata end of year gathering in person in Sydney. COVID safe, definitely. That is what we are all looking forward to. Now, I'm seeing a couple of hellos come on in the comments here. If you are joining me, feel free to pop me a hello. I can see those comments if you are on LinkedIn and also here on Facebook. Bruce is letting me know that he is en route from Piermont to Blackheath, listening or watching perhaps in the car there, Bruce. Excellent. Great to have you with us. And Patricia is here saying, thank you for the reminder. I would hate to have missed you. You're looking great. Hair looks fabulous. Thank you, Patricia. Have managed to get to the hairdresser within the last couple of weeks now that we are open again. So thank you very much for being here. And we have with us from LinkedIn, Dr. Nicole Johnston. Sounds fun. Wish I was in Sydney to celebrate. Yes, we will miss you at our Women in Strata event. I think a couple more weeks into December, mid-December, we might have the Queensland border opening up to us, which will be good. We will have to get together in Queensland. And Michelle is here saying greetings from O-Town. Michelle is in Orange. Lovely to see you, Michelle. All righty. Now, did you catch this week's podcast episode number 285. Rena and I were actually chatting in person. I happened to be in the same place as Rena when we were recording that podcast episode, the first time in many years of chatting on the podcast that Rena and I have actually had a face-to-face in-person chat. So do check out episode number 285. We talked about the chairing of general meetings and covered the strata manager's authority to chair a general meeting. We also talked about the Common Property Memorandum, the CPM, as I'm deciding to call it. Is it a help or is it a hindrance? And those lucky owners corporations that have surplus funds, what can they do with surplus funds and what options do they have for investing their surplus funds? We covered all of that in episode number 285. In relation to the chairing of meetings, this is something that I've got a little bit of feedback on from some listeners and some comments under that episode. In that episode, you'll hear Rena and I talk about the delegation of authority to a strata manager under Section 52 of our Strata Schemes Management Act. But a rather savvy listener, I'm going to call him out, he has commented publicly on the post. David Glover has pointed out that the more relevant section is actually Section 54 in our New South Wales legislation. And I'm just going to share with you a copy of that section if I can put my hands to it. I think I've got it here. So I can show you here, Section 54 in our New South Wales Strata Schemes Management Act. And I want to clarify that this is probably the more appropriate section to be looking at if you are wondering whether your strata managing agent has authority to exercise the function of a chairperson at a general meeting. So Section 54 in our Act says that the instrument of appointment of a strata managing agent may provide that the agent has and may exercise all the functions of the chairperson, secretary, treasurer, or strata committee, or the functions of those officers that are specified in the instrument. So the lesson here is that if you are a strata manager and you want to be chairing meetings, chairing general meetings, or indeed chairing committee meetings for your clients, you really should make sure that your instrument of appointment, that's your agency agreement, in fact, delegates you the authority to exercise the function of chairperson. And you'll hear my view given as I was chatting to Rena on the podcast that I believe if you have that delegation, you can then act as chairperson legally under the provisions of the Strata Schemes Management Act. So check out Section 54. It wasn't mentioned in the episode, but thank you, David Glover, for pointing out that Section 54 is the one to be having a look at. Now, lots and lots of you coming on in. I am sure you are here to hear from our special guest. She is waiting in the wings here for you. Nicole Wilde is going to be sharing how she is reimagining the role of the body corporate manager in Queensland in particular, but with lessons for all of us, I'm sure. I'm going to welcome her in very soon. But we also have, before I get there, some new legislation, some more new legislation for New South Wales. We've had a little bit of it this year. This is why I love this area, Strata. It's great for lawyers who want to be kept on their toes, who want to be learning something new. There's always something new going on for us. First of all, we have the Community Land Management Act, our community association legislation, new Act 2021 legislation starting on the 1st of December. So that has been confirmed that our new legislation is due to start on the 1st of December. That's our new Community Land Management Act and new Community Land Development Act. There's lots that's changing there. I have been starting to dig into it with some members inside our online membership community, getting some questions about some transitional provisions. And the more I look at it, the more I realize that there is a bit there to get our heads across. So I am thinking about putting together a webinar, giving you a rundown on the need to know what is changing for our community associations under this new 2021 legislation. Do you want a webinar on that? Is that something that you might be interested in and you might find helpful? Do let me know if you are here live and a webinar on the new Community Associations legislation in New South Wales sounds like something helpful. Pop me a note in the comments, yes please, to a webinar. And indeed, if you are catching the replay, definitely let me know your thoughts on that as well. Interested to know how many of you would benefit from a rundown on the new Community Land Management Act and Community Land Development Act as well. Now, another piece of new legislation that was only announced in my inbox, at least this afternoon, some of you may have been aware of this a little bit earlier, is that we are now going to have mandatory annual reporting for New South Wales strata schemes. What does this mean? I will let you know. It is proposed to commence in mid-2022. There will be legislation requiring owners' corporations to report and verify certain information each year for the New South Wales Government's Strata Hub. Now, the Strata Hub is a digital portal that's designed to centralize strata information and make it publicly available. The Strata Hub we've been talking about for a couple of years now, and I have been sitting on some roundtable meetings with Victor Dominello's office and other Strata stakeholders. I've been there representing the Australian College of Strata Lawyers, giving our input into what the Strata Hub might look like. But with some delays due to the pandemic, we are now at the stage where we have a draft proposed Strata Schemes Management Amendment brackets information regulation. And it sets out the information that is to be reported each year by owners corporations, who can access it, the fee that needs to be paid, and the start date. And the New South Wales government wants to hear from you, people who live in strata, own, rent, work, strata managers, people who invest in strata, want to hear from you your feedback on a discussion paper or explanatory paper, I think it's called, as well as the draft legislation. So Rochelle, who is always ably assisting me here in the background, will pop in the link to the relevant website where you can have a read about what this new legislation covers and what our owners corporations will be required to do from about mid-2022. I'm also going to show you, while we are here, I'm seeing a yes please from Aidan for a community land management webinar. Sounds great. Thank you, Aidan. I am going to share a little looky at this new regulation. So it is, as you should be seeing on the screen, I hope I've made that nice and big, the Strata Schemes Management Amendment Information Regulation. Rochelle has a link for this one too, so you can access by that link or through the New South Wales Government website. This is the legislation which will require owners corporations to give information to the secretary and notify the secretary of the information if the information changes or is incorrect, and it prescribes the type of information. Okay, so that's giving information to the Secretary of the Department of Fair Trading. Let's just scroll down here because the relevant part, it's not very long, have a little look at it, is this new Regulation 43. The Owners Corporation for a strata scheme must give the information specified in Clause 43A below to the Secretary in the approved form. You have to do it if the first annual general meeting of the Owners Corporation is held on or before the 1st of May. The deadline is proposed to be the 1st of August 2022 to give this information. Now, this is going to be really important for strata managers to be across these timeframes. Otherwise, if you have a new building and you haven't yet had your first annual general meeting, you have to give this information within 3 months after the first annual general meeting. You then have to do it every year. This is a type of audit. It's a type of annual reporting, similar to if you were running a company that you have to give your annual reports. This is going to be a requirement for every year within 3 months after each annual general meeting. And look at that. If you don't do it, up to $5,500 is payable in a penalty. That's what 50 penalty units is. So this is pretty serious and important to be across. What kind of information do we have to be giving in our annual report? The strata plan number, the registration of the strata plan, information if the strata plan is part of a community scheme, the address, the number of lots, the lots that are used for residential purposes, a retirement village, commercial purposes, if your building has a neighbour's rating, what the rating is, interim or final occupation certificates, fire safety statement, the date it was issued. I'm just going to keep scrolling down. This is a reasonably long list here. The replacement value of each building, the details of the secretary of the owner's corporation, their full name, their telephone number, their email address. And if there is a strata managing agent, the details of the agent. If there's a building manager, the details of the building manager. The date of the most recent annual general meeting, the balance of the capital works fund, and whether a strata renewal committee has been established. So some really detailed information there to be submitted as part of the annual report, and this information intended to go up on the Strata Hub. Now, some secretaries of strata committees may be looking at this and thinking, hang on a sec, I don't want my name, my number, my email address to be publicly available on an online portal. Well, there is an exclusion for the information that certain information will not be made publicly available. And you'll read that further down here in this section. And that information includes the personal details of the secretary. So the information is to be provided to the state government, but certain information will be exempt from being publicly disclosed. And that's what you're seeing here in this section that's on the screen right now. Yes, you do need to pay a fee when you are filling out this form. The idea is that it's an online form. It should be a simple process. The form should be pre-filled as far as it can be each year so that there's not too much work. There's always more to do for our strata managers, but I know that the government's been working hard to make sure this is as seamless as possible. But there will be a fee payable, and there it is there. It will be $3 per lot in the strata scheme. So if it's a 2-lot scheme, it's a $6 annual fee to be putting this information into the Strata Hub. If it's a 100-lot scheme, it's a $300 fee. That seems fair. The bigger the scheme, the more owners you have, the more people may be accessing this information in the portal. So it seems like a reasonably fair way to work out how this is funded. But have a look. This is the draft legislation, new regulations that require owners corporations to submit an annual report providing details of their community, their building, and strata managers in particular are going to have to be across this from about May, June next year. None of these dates are set in stone. All of that is proposed. Definitely go over and have a look at the New South Wales Government website. You'll see a link here in the comments to read the explanatory paper, have a closer look at that legislation, and perhaps start talking to your committees, your communities, your owners, if you're strata managers, letting them know that this is on the horizon. Another task for our strata managers, another service to be adding to your agency agreements and making sure you're aware that this obligation is on the horizon. Many of you coming in, and a few more hellos here. Emiliana is saying hi. How are you, Emiliana? Alison Benson is with us from LinkedIn. Hey, Amanda and Nicole W. And Nicole J. Yes, Nicole Johnston listening in as well. Lovely to see you. Patricia is saying, forgive my ignorance, who will be physically entering the data? The secretary of the Strata scheme or the Strata managing agent? Very good question, Patricia. I'd be saying if an owner's corporation has a Strata managing agent, then the Strata managing agent is going to be the ones with their hands on this information. You've got to submit details, including the balance of the capital works fund. So quite detailed, up-to-date information. I'd be suggesting the Strata manager is given the authority to enter that information. Bruce is saying we have a secretary at email address, which can go on the hub. I won't be worried about my email address being on there. Good one, Bruce. Good to hear. And Steve's just saying that the link, one of those links doesn't seem to be working. So if you don't mind, Rochelle, just checking that out for Steve, we will get that fixed for you. All righty. So what's going on? Lots going on indeed. It is time to welcome in today's special guest, and she is Nicole Wilde. Nicole was a Crown prosecutor before moving into a 10-year career as a body corporate litigation lawyer. She has resolved disputes involving bodies corporate in New Zealand, New South Wales, Victoria, the ACT, and Queensland, dealing with matters as small as a lot owner drilling through a party wall to tap into his neighbour's electricity. That's a new one. To multi-million-dollar claims for defective building work. Nicole now lives in the Gold Coast, where she has started her own body corporate management business that promotes ethical practices that put owners first. Welcome in, Nicole Wilde. Hey, Nicole.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure to have you here with us. And just before I continue on and we jump into our chat, I don't know if I've frozen there, but there's a little something that I want to share here. I'm hoping that it will be up on our screen very, very soon. It is this.
Thank you so much.
Birthday,
It's
Nicole
really
Wilde.
sweet. Oh, how embarrassing.
A little bird told me just a couple of hours ago that it's your birthday today, and you didn't tell me that when I invited you to be my guest this week.
No, I'm 36 today.
Congratulations. Happy birthday. May your day be filled with joy and wine. And look, I didn't put those words in there. Rochelle, who is always helping us out here, has made that for you. And she must have known that you don't mind having a glass of wine, especially on your birthday.
Oh, yes, I am known for it.
And I am so thrilled and privileged, honored that you have agreed to be our guest today, even though it is your birthday and you no doubt have lots of friends lined up ready to celebrate with you. So welcome on this special day.
What a welcome. That's so nice. Thank you, Rochelle and Amanda. It's good to be here.
Now, Nicole, I am always quite fascinated by strata lawyers who make the shift from law to strata management or body corporate management, as you call it, in Queensland. You're not the first, definitely, and you're not the only one that I know or have spoken to about that shift. But I'm always interested to know, how did you come to make that big decision, and how's it going so far?
Thank you. Well, I was a partner of Tisha Liner FC Law down in Melbourne until July last year, and I was actually initially going to leave to become a barrister and do more court work and appearance work. But during the pandemic down in Melbourne, we decided to relocate to the Gold Coast. Honestly, best decision I've ever made. And since landing here, I did land at another very well-regarded body corporate litigation firm, and I was working there for a while, and I was going to open their Gold Coast office, but ultimately I decided that there were enough probably Gold Coast strata lawyers up here, and the way to really help owners was to sort of use the skills that I've learned and just apply them directly to helping owners in the management industry. Because when I was an owners corporation lawyer, we called it down in Melbourne, I was dealing with, or cleaning up, I say, so many disputes between owners and bodies corporate, or bodies corporates and builders. And, you know, as a lawyer, you get paid a great hourly rate to solve those problems. In terms of the hindsight that I was able to get from that, I could see that most of the problems came from owners not understanding how things were meant to work in their strata scheme, the manager not really helping, not deliberately not helping, but just not having the skills to interpret the legislation properly. So often the advice they would give would come from a really good place of trying to help, but sometimes it was absolutely wrong. And owners would ask me, by the time we cleaned up all of their disputes, like, oh, who do I go to now to, like, what kind of body corporate manager should I go with now to make sure that this doesn't happen again in the future? Because that was really expensive to resolve. And honestly, it was the hardest question for me, because I thought, well, most of the managers are kind of just the same. And if they're all just the same, then you're going to change to someone and you're going to get the same kind of customer service. You're going to get the same kind of knowledge. And so I had some great managers, but I could count them on one hand, that I could say to my like committee clients, oh, go here, you'll get a better level of service and less disputes. So yeah, it's a little bit of a social experiment, to be honest, because I have heard over and over for years from owners, like, body corporate managers don't have a great reputation. When someone tells me about their body corporate manager, it's normally like, I have to tell you about my body corporate manager, and then a monologue of like heaps of problems. So I'm kind of a bit of a problem-solving person, and I can only listen to a problem for so long before I'm like, okay, yeah, but what's the solution? And I could tell managers, like, okay, so you can improve your management and service to owners if you would just increase your knowledge of the legislation. But to be honest, it's like asking them to go and get a law degree. You could stop withholding their records from them and just make them available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because they are ultimately the owner's records. And if there's nothing to hide in the records, then there's no problem in giving it to them. And stop taking commissions of things that the body corporate buys, because if the body corporate is going to buy mandatory building insurance and public risk insurance every single year, and that's one of their biggest expenses, say it's $100,000 for a body corporate, a big body corporate here on the Gold Coast to buy building insurance, your body corporate manager is most of the time taking a commission from that premium. And I've heard managers write down in, AGM notices and things like that, but it's not going to affect your premium. You don't know that, because you've never tried getting owners a premium that doesn't include a commission paid to you. So I absolutely disagree with insurance commissions paid to body corporate managers. I find that how can you really tell a committee that you're giving them purely independent, transparent advice? Even if you tell them that you're getting a commission, there's great research done by Dr. Nicole Johnston and Dr. Carla Johnston about the psychological impact of managers, or developers in that case, but of receiving a commission and then overcompensating when you advise the client because you're concerned that they're not going to trust your advice because you are getting the commission. Another really big problem is associated companies. Like, oh, you should get your valuation done by this associated company of my company. We've given you mandatory disclosure under the legislation, but really, what owner truly reads or understands that?
Well, I have to say, hats off to you, Nicole, for recognizing these problems, acknowledging that they are problems. And none of this is a surprise to me, let's say, having worked as one of your colleagues as a Strata lawyer in New South Wales and seeing exactly what you're talking about, having exactly the same feeling when I'm assisting to unravel, clean up a mess that could have been avoided. And then being asked the same question, Amanda, where do I go? Where do we go to get better service? And finding only maybe a few fingers on the one hand that I can, where I can refer people to. We all see it, but you've seen it and gone, I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to jump in there and work hard to fix it and be a different option for owners. So I so
Yeah.
admire you for that. I want to ask you about the name of your company, the Nuu Co, and that's NUU. Can you tell me what that's about?
Yeah, I'm half Samoan, and so the word NUU in Samoan means village, Nuu. So it's the Nuu Co, and it's inspired by my mum's heritage.
Excellent.
Cheesy. So cheesy.
It's not cheesy at all. It is
Yeah.
apt and it is memorable, and it's always good to have a story behind a name. Now, you have let us know that insurance commissions is something that you don't agree with. Associated companies is something that you don't agree with. I know, having had a look at your website, you do talk about how you are reimagining body corporate management. Aside from those two issues, and we can definitely get into those deeper if you want to, but why do you say that body corporate management in Queensland, if that's what you know, why does it need to be reimagined? What's
Yeah,
going wrong
sure.
up there?
Just spend 5 minutes with an apartment owner. They'll
Okay.
tell you exactly what is wrong with it. I won't go into the whole list of what's wrong, but the way that I'm reimagining it is you pretty simple. You just put owners first, because I'm an owner here in a Strata scheme in the Gold Coast. You just put owners first and you figure out, okay, what do they need? They need to comply with the legislation. They need to make sure that the person giving them advice is trustworthy and has got their best interests at heart. They need to make sure that somebody who is getting paid, meaning the body corporate manager, is actually au fait and understands asset management, basically, because these big buildings here on the Gold Coast have a lot of other legal compliance that they have to comply with: building compliance, fire compliance, council planning compliance, all these things on top of their body corporate management compliance. And whilst they have a building manager here in the Gold Coast, there are issues with the management rights industry and the conflicts of interest that exist within that statutory framework that has been set up. So without going into all of that, it has been described to me by some building management sort of industry people that they think that the relationship between a committee, a building manager, and a body corporate manager is like a triangle. And I completely disagree. So they say, okay, the committee's at the top and the body corporate manager is here and the building manager is here, and it's a triangle. It's not a triangle. The committee is the client of both the body corporate manager and the building manager, but the committee is acting through voluntary committee members who don't get paid. And no one does their best work for free. And even if they were lawyers, they're probably not Strata lawyers. Even if they're accountants, they probably have a full-time job. Even if you're retired, you've sat on boards before, this is a very niche legal area that you have to comply with. And your average committee member is going to be an expert in something else. And so who is going to be their expert? That's where I come in, because I don't think that I'm part of the triangle. I think I am the body corporate manager, meaning I am the agent for the body corporate. So their interests come first, second, and third, and the building manager is another service contractor that we need to deal with. And so one thing that I do as part of my body corporate management service is I get all the contracts for all of the building manager and all the other service providers. And I go through and I create a template, and I go to the building and I confirm for the committee, on behalf of the committee, are these people complying with their contractual duties to the body corporate? And if they're not,
Wow.
let's sort it out. Like, let's resolve it before we have to go and get in a massive dispute.
Yeah. And what a bonus benefit to have your body corporate manager being able to read and understand these contracts. I've definitely been involved as a lawyer for the Owners Corporation, coming in where an Owners Corporation has said, why didn't our strata manager know that this wasn't happening under the contract, that this was supposed to happen? Why do we have to pay for a lawyer to come in and tell us what these contractors should be doing? So I'm just seeing a comment here from Ro. How refreshing is this? I'm getting that sense too, Ro. Thank you for sharing that. And David saying taking commissions is a clear conflict of interest and should be credited to the Owners Corporation, if not abolished altogether. Yes, there is a feeling, I think, David and Nicole, you would have seen this as well, that buildings are happy for the commission to be taken because it means they don't have to pay as much for their service, and the strata manager or body corporate manager's service is subsidized somewhat by the insurance commission. But we learn as lawyers that conflicts of interest can be rather insidious, and you've already pointed out that you may not be aware of the way that you're thinking and your approach to an issue is being shaped by the fact that you are have this other vested interest in what's going on, even to the extent that you may be acting above and beyond, trying to clear your conscience, if you like, because this is happening in the background. Does this mean, if you're not taking insurance commissions, Nicole, does this mean that your service is very expensive?
No. So there's this practice in Queensland at the moment where managers are competing on price. A lot of the managers are competing on price, and the way that they tell people how much they're going to be for their annual fee is per lot, which is, in my view, completely misrepresenting to lot owners exactly how much your management fees are going to be every year. So they'll say, oh, we're going to charge you like $150 per lot per year. Firstly, not all schemes, in fact, most schemes don't actually divide up their administrative fund based on a per lot basis anyway. You have contribution lot entitlements. And secondly, like, once you add that all up with that annual fee, that is only for a very limited scope of services. So you might get one annual general meeting out of that within business hours, 2 hours max. You might get 3 committee meetings out of that during business hours. Anything over and above the standard, they charge an additional management fee on an hourly rate or a fixed fee or disbursement. The way to find out how much you pay in body corporate management fees is you go to your annual financial statements at the end of the year. You find all the ways that they have divided up their management fees and their disbursements. You add it all together. That's how much you pay. And if you want to work out per lot, if you really want to do that, it's more like $400, $500, $600 per lot. So with my business, the way that I charge is a fixed flat fee, which is inclusive. So as many general meetings as you want a year, as many committee meetings as you want a year, after hours, during business hours, no lock-in contracts. And the reason why I can back myself to provide that kind of service for a fixed fee every year is because I believe that being managed by someone like me will create harmony amongst the owners, so less disputes. You get the benefit of my ability to interpret statutes and legislation regulations, so less mistakes. So you won't need all the extraordinary general meetings that you might have to fix things up or you know. So that is my concept. Because I think I should take on some risk as well. It's not all on owners to say, I'm taking on the risk and I'm happy to do it, because I think that it will be fun to see owners experience a completely different type of management.
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be even more fun from watching it from over here. uh, I thank you for pointing out the difference between what we call in New South Wales the agreed services fee, or that fixed fee that owners are signing up for, and then what we would call the additional services fee. And the standard form agency agreements here say the same thing. On the front page, you've got the agreed services fee, and that is often, in my experience, how buildings choose their manager. Who's got the lowest fixed fee, lowest agreed services fee? I shouldn't say fixed fee, that's not what it is, but the lowest agreed services fee. Not thinking about looking right at the back of the contract where that long schedule is. And Dr. Nicole Johnston's recent research pointed this out, that these agreements are just incredibly hard to understand. That long list of additional services at hourly rates or at additional fees. And thank you for explaining to owners that looking at your financial statements over the year and adding up those two line items, the additional services and the agreed services, and actually working out that you've paid 20 grand when you thought your strata manager was costing you 10 grand. And that's not something I fully appreciated until I was an owner, looking at records and as a committee member answering owner questions when they've said, I thought our strata manager cost us 10 grand. How come we paid 20? And I've gone, that's a good question. Let's have a look at where that's come from. And I'm not sure that disclosure I know that disclosure is not there. Owners just don't know. And it may be perfectly valuable work and work that should be charged for and work there's been a benefit for, but there's been no awareness up front. And I think that's where owners lose faith and lose trust.
Yeah, definitely. And some of those contracts say, before you can charge me additional fees, you need to give me an invoice and let me know what it was for. Does that happen in practice? Not that I've seen.
I don't even know if I've seen that clause in a contract, and I've seen invoices for additional services fees. I'm not sure that the strata manager waits for approval before they draw them down from the trust account. We're getting lots of comments here on Facebook. Stephen is saying, Nicole, do you manage in New South Wales? Please.
Sorry, I'm starting on the Gold Coast at the moment, and only the Gold Coast.
You heard it here, guys, starting.
Yeah, I have to physically be able to go to the building. So, walk along the beach, pop into a building.
That's the only thing that's holding her back, though. Just watch this space. Layla is saying, sounds interesting. And I'll just bring up your next comment as well, Layla. I remember pointing this out to the committee and they still didn't get it. Yes, about these additional fees versus the agreed fee. David is saying it's way more than two line items. Yeah, you're probably right, David. If we're having to look at disbursements, additional services fees, management fee, I think they often call it.
Yeah, and commissions and profit gained by their associated companies. Like, be an interesting question to ask the body corporate manager, can you please put in one figure all of the financial benefits you receive from managing our body corporate?
Yes, indeed. Something else you mentioned in there, Nicole, that you do is you don't have lock-in contracts. Now, I'm not sure what the law is in Queensland. You no doubt know about maximum terms on strata management contracts. Since our 2015 legislation here in New South Wales, we have 3-year maximum terms. However, I'm still involved in disputes where buildings want to get out of their contract for reasons that are just unfathomable to me. Some strata managers here just insist on hanging on to a bad relationship. I'm not sure. Maybe there's some trauma carried over from bad relationships when they were teenagers at school. But if your client doesn't want you, I don't know why you want the client. Let them go, especially when there is a lot more fish in the sea, let's say that. Tell me how your no lock-in contracts work and why are you comfortable backing that?
All right. So I teach my clients before they even become clients how to leave if they want, because I am that confident in the fact that they won't want to leave because I'm doing a great job that they've never experienced before. But if for whatever reason, and everyone has reasons, say we clash, say my personality doesn't work with someone's personality and all the owners want to leave, I don't gain anything from keeping a client that wants to leave. And when I was a lawyer, I saw body corporate managers not only resist termination, lawful termination in many cases, but interfere in the democratic process of lot owners by actively calling lot owners, getting proxies, getting powers of attorney, and interfering in something that they have no business in to try and sway or influence the outcome of the body corporate's decision so that they can keep their commercial interests intact. Now, I am the owner of my own business, so I can make all the decisions myself. And I do feel very sorry for an employee, body corporate manager, who, because of a company policy or because the company is so focused on not losing clients, that they are forced to try and prevent people from lawfully leaving. But ultimately, those kinds of company policies have to change, because if people are marching out the door, you've got to ask yourself, not how can we lock the door, how can we make them want to stay?
Yep.
That's my view.
And so the contracts that you have put forward for your clients just terminate on notice. They can let you know they're not happy?
In Queensland, you have to hold a general meeting to pass a resolution to terminate a body corporate manager. But in my contract, I give them a copy of the resolution, and I have a contractual obligation to help them convene the meeting, which I will obviously do. So it's like instead of looking at the law and saying, okay, well, that's a minimum requirement, I go over and above that and say, I am proactively going to help you leave. Like it's better for everyone that we leave on good terms.
Yep. I agree. Absolutely. A few more comments here. Peter is saying, will be interesting to see if you can scale and sustain that fee concept, Nicole. Yes, I'm sure I'm seeing a lot of eyeballs on this chat live at the moment, and I'm sure there's managers out there watching what you're doing, Nicole, and seeing how it plays out for you. Obviously, you have your, as you said, confidence in what it is that you're providing. And I also feel from talking to you, there is a sense of this might not work, but I've got to give it a go. I've got this itch that I've got to scratch, and I've got to give it a go, and I'm going to put my best foot forward. And that's what I really love about you and what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Well, I've heard people complain for years, and I have, during the pandemic, I think that a lot of people's deep down characteristics really came out. And I was a little bit sad to see that, when the times get tough, some of the big companies say, how can we get more money from owners? And I think that is extremely sad. And the worst thing for me to see is owners in dispute with their body's corporate. I think that it's a little bit like eating yourself, because if you're suing your body corporate's suing you. What a waste of money. Like, you could be spending that money enhancing your swimming pool or your foyer or your garden area. Like, how cool would that be if all of your money was laser focused on improving the value of your awesome community asset? So in terms of scaling, I am at the moment capping the number of lots that I'm going to manage to 1,000 lots. So myself as a business, I can manage 1,000 lots. First 1,000 lots to come on will win, and everyone else will have to wait until more lots get released, basically.
A woman after my own heart. I love that. I do that in my practice. I have very limited space available for one-to-one client work, and many people here listening in who've approached me and tried to get on the list haven't been able to, and I've stuck by that, and it has been my saving grace. It's the reason why I'm sane and why I can do things like this, which I really love. And I tell strata managers to do the same thing. Charge a little bit more if you have to, but there is a market out there for that highly focused, dedicated professional who is there for you, and they can be, because they're not taking on more than they can handle. So I'm so excited to watch you do this.
Great minds think alike, Amanda.
And tell me this, there's a question here from Patricia about how you're going on the Gold Coast and how clients are responding to this. Are you building up fast, those 1,000 lots? Are people getting excited? How much space have you got left here?
So I had the idea and I left Bugden Allen Graham Lawyers. I left in July 2021, so about 18, 20 weeks ago. Since then, I have had to research what's the best software, what's set up a company. I've had to get business names, websites. So it took like 10 weeks or so to actually get the business up and running. And now I am in full-blown business development mode. So I'm meeting with owners, I'm meeting with committee members, I'm meeting with Strata lawyers up here, contractors. And the response that I'm getting back is overwhelmingly positive. But also people are like, I don't believe it. Like, why would you do this? And they have this mentality at the moment, which I'm trying really hard to shift, which is it's too good to believe. Like all body corporate managers are the same. It's just a matter of what logo you want on your fee notice. And I cannot believe, yeah, that's another story, but I cannot believe that there is another option, because it's the first kind of option of this kind that I'm aware of. Even though there have been other people that go out, I don't know that anyone's gone as far as me. But I think if you're going to, go far and do something new, do it once and do it right.
Yeah, I think thinking in New South Wales, another friend and colleague of mine, Natalie Fitzgerald at More Than Strata, they're doing something similar. As you say, I don't think going to the extent that you are, but I'll definitely connect you with Natalie if you haven't been connected already. But there is a need for a different way, a reimagined way, as you say. And tell you what, I believe you can do it. You don't have to preach to me, that's for sure. I've been practicing law a different way, and a way that people said, can't do that. It's never going to work.
It's fabulous what you do, Amanda. You give so much value to people.
Thank you. I am just looking over at another comment that's come through. Stephen is sharing a hint about insurance. In a 9-lot residential townhouse complex, we have reduced our insurance costs by 55%. Now less than half by going to GIO. They do not pay commission to the strata manager.
Yay.
Yep. Good. This is what I love about this space as well, that we're here to share our hints and our tips and to hear from all different creative people doing good things in our space. So tell me, Nicole, what should we, you've said, I can't believe that you started only in July, only about 10 weeks ago.
I know, neither.
Looking at your website, I mean, you've done so much, and please do. We will, Rochelle, maybe now pop a link to Nicole's website into the comments so people can check it out. I was complimenting Nicole earlier on how great that website looks. And so, it's the kind of thing I thought you'd been working on for like 12 months. So we're looking forward to seeing you progress in leaps and bounds. What, aside from being out there doing your business development, getting owners to understand that this is real, that this is possible, what more should we expect to see over the next few months or so for the Nuu Co?
So one other thing that I'm going to be giving to people on my website are little, really short videos breaking down the really complex legislation here in Queensland for accommodation module schemes, and breaking them down into really easy to understand sort of videos. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to eat a lot of M&Ms. So I'm going to explain things in like little glass jars, colored M&Ms, like how to pass a special resolution based on those numbers, because I think that owners are very visual learners. I know I'm a visual learner, and when I go to my AGM meeting, I see people using their like AGM notices, coaster for their coffee. They don't read it most of the time, and if they read it, they're confused. So they're turning up and like deer in the headlights at most of these AGMs. And I actually want people to participate. I want people to become a village of owners that is on the same journey moving forward, and not distracted by like expensive infighting and waste of time, in my view. become like, I want my clients to become more commercially respected negotiating entities, because they've got big budgets, and I think a lot of money just gets wasted in poor administration. It could be so much better. That fund and pool of money could be used so much more effectively. Yeah, so you can actually, instead of investing in an apartment and being like, oh, it's my home, so I don't really expect much of a capital return, it should be like, it's my home and we're going to actively make it more valuable while we're here.
Absolutely. Yes. We've spoken about that definitely on the podcast and here on live, about how important it is to add value to your property, whether it's your home or your investment. And there are so many ways that buildings can be doing that, but not if they're distracted by putting out fires and by disputes with their body corporate manager. So those things definitely get in the way. I love your passion for being able to revitalize communities. I think you said commercially respected negotiating entities. That's what you want communities to be.
Yeah, because they should be. And I think there's a real price for inattention. So a lot of owners will say, oh, I own this holiday apartment in the Gold Coast, but I just don't really read anything about it and I don't vote, because they don't make it easy for you to vote and they don't make it understandable about what's happening. So I'm going to put up videos that's going to make it easier for New South Wales, Victoria, Brisbane owners to actually have a say in what goes on in their Gold Coast apartment, not just because I'm married to a chartered accountant and he gives like $6,000 a year in body corporate levies to our body corporate for our building in Broadbeach. And it's the one area of his life where he does not care where that money is going. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't care? Like, that's a lot of money. Get involved.
And you are focused, I think, on large Gold Coast buildings. And that's where it's interesting that you point out you will have a lot of investor owners, and perhaps more so than ever before now, with everyone wants an exit plan from certain parts of the country. I like that angle of recognizing the need to engage those absentee owners.
And those New South Wales and Victorian owners, that they often also own in those states, and there's much better regulation of body corporate managers there, and the legislation is a bit easier to understand, whereas in Queensland, very little hope of an interstate owner getting across all the legislation.
That's something we haven't even touched on, and we're running out of time. But I know you say this on your website that most people don't understand or don't know in Queensland that this industry of body corporate management is unregulated, and you just don't know what it is you're going to be getting. Do you think that needs to be addressed? Do you think the need for better qualifications, education, is all part of that package?
Absolutely. If the body corporate management industry in Queensland wants to be taken more seriously, they need to have regulation, professional regulation. Even real estate agents have to have a license or a registration. And body corporate managers don't here. It astounds me. And they are responsible for giving advice, and they control or have some degree of control over holding your money. Like, wow, how has that not already been fixed?
Yep. Yeah,
crazy.
Scary stuff. Now, Patricia is commenting that it would be great to find out in a few months how successful Nicole is. So that's it. The gauntlet's been laid down here by Patricia. Thank you, Patricia. Nicole, we're going to come back. We're going to revisit. We're going to measure, and you're going to let us know how you've gone, if you don't mind.
I am 100% accountable to myself and to making owners' money go further.
Excellent. So good to hear. Now, your website is the Nuu Co, nuuco.com.au. Is that the best place for people to go to find out more about you and to refer their Gold Coast friends and family?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you, Amanda.
What are you doing to celebrate your birthday this evening? Something glamorous.
Yeah, I'm going with Dr. Nick to have Thai and cocktails. And she promised me a croquembouche. So I am expecting.
Where is it?
I know. Where is the croquembouche,
Knock at the
Dr.
door.
Nick? Yeah.
Well, I'm very jealous. Enjoy. I hope to see
Yeah.
both of you in person very soon, whether in Queensland or pop down to New South Wales when we're each allowed to cross that border. And all the best. You've got a lot on your plate. I know what it is to start a new business. I know what it is to run an old business. I tell you what, that's enough. And we are lucky to have you, your creativity, your energy, and your ideas shaking things up. It's what we like to do.
Thank you, Amanda. And right back at you.
Thank you, Nicole. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Go and enjoy your weekend. And I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
See ya.